Welcome back to another question and answer session here at Silicon Dojo. Well, I have to say, not another question and answer session. This is, in fact, the very first question and answer session, but I'm glad to have you here. If you want to ask me a question that I may answer in one of these videos, please leave a question in the comments down below, and more or less every day I'll do one video answering a question from the peanut gallery out there. So this question comes from Simba Hunter. Do you hunt Simbas? Poor little Simba? Do you hunt poor little Simba out of the Lion King? I don't know, that sounds kind of sad. Anyways, Simba Hunter. Either that or I'm being politically incorrect and Simba's a completely normal name somewhere. That's one of the weird things about the modern world. You see like these names on YouTube or social media, and sometimes you don't know if they're nicknames. Sometimes you don't know if, yes, they do want people to think that they kill little Simbas. Or if, from whatever place in the world they're from, Simba is a completely normal name. Anyways, this is why I should probably delete my YouTube channel. But anywho, I'm answering this question. I'm legitimately answering this question. I can have a little fun here. Simba Hunter. Eli, I am a really young guy, and I know and I have studied a lot of tech and also developed a lot of life-changing technologies. I really want to take it a step further and also tutor young people and change lives as well. What do you recommend I start from? I have tried a lot of stuff, but nothing really seems to play out well. The first thing that I will say here is always try to be as specific as possible when you are asking questions, especially when you're asking questions for something that's essentially a text message, because remember, the person on the other side can't fill in the blanks. One of the big problems that I've had over the years when I do question and answer sessions and that type of thing with folks all around the world is simply, many times I don't know what the hell they're talking about, right? They'll just say like a sentence and expect me to understand a book. It's like, I don't know. I'm not actually trying to be snarky about where you are in the world. I just don't understand where you are. I don't understand your circumstances. I don't understand your resources. I don't understand your situation. And when I don't understand any of those things, sometimes it can be a little difficult to be able to give you a good answer. So whenever you're going to be asking these questions, Silicon Dojo, question and answer session, or honestly, whenever you go out into the world and you're asking questions of mentors, professors, educators, bosses, whoever else, try to be as specific as possible so that they can give you the best possible answer that they can give. So when you say, like, I am a really young guy, it's very important to understand that doesn't mean anything to me, right? So I'm in my mid-40s now, and so a really young guy, that number has changed over the years, right? When I was 20 and somebody said that they were a really young guy, I might think that they were 13. Now that I'm in my mid-40s, if you say you're a really young guy, I may think you're 25. It's important to understand, at least here in the United States, what a 13-year-old can do and what a 25-year-old can do is a world of difference. So the advice that you would give for one or the other, really, it changes the dynamic. So just one of those things to be thinking about there. So anyways, this is a valuable question to learn, to ask. And I think one of the reasons that this is a valuable question to ask is that many new people don't really understand the concept of being a professional, right? So there is your job, there is your career, and then there is your profession, right? So your job may literally be to swap hard drives. Your career may see you starting to swap hard drives, then you do desktop support, and then you go to management. Your profession, right? That's all the knowledge that you know, right? You know how to build websites, even though you might not actually get paid for it. You may know Python and Azure Functions, something I'm playing with right now, even though you don't get paid for it. You may have a lot of other skills that are within your professional resume that may not actually be part of your job or part of your career. And so one of the important things to be thinking about, especially when you're young, is how to build out the portfolio of skills that you have so that as your career progresses, you can reach into that little bag of professional skills and pull out different skills to potentially get you different jobs in the future. Again, this is one thing I try to explain to people, like with my career. I started in the Army in electronic repair. And when I say that I started in the Army in electronic repairs, when I got put to permanent party, I was literally cleaning the crap off of Special Forces. There are these like radio kits. I don't want to say radio kit. There are the antenna kits. And so there are these like canvas bags with all the antenna equipment in it. And so my job initially was cleaning the canvas bags, making sure the antenna and stuff in there weren't corroded, and shipping out like a couple of hundred of those per week, right? But then as my career went on, I got into the IT world, started, deploying servers, doing desktop support, building out things, and then after a while I became a consultant, and when I became a consultant, I needed to have a different skill set there, being able to sell to customers, being able to sell to clients, wound up doing YouTube videos. YouTube videos, again, I'm still in that career, right? I'm still in that profession, but as my career moved, there were different skills that I required going down the road. And now as I'm doing Silicon Dojo, like literally this morning, I spent 4 hours building a LAMP server in order to create this little web application that's going to be able to communicate with Azure Vision Functions. Really cool, Azure Vision Functions. And I created a couple of apps to do demonstrations. So one takes a look at a picture and tells you a whole bunch of stuff automatically about the picture, and the other one is an OCR, optical character recognition. It's able to read documents and give you back results and do interesting things, right? But that's part, right? That's part of what I'm doing now. But the other tasks are actually educating people. Again, doing sales things, sitting here and talking into a camera. There is so much more to my career and my profession than any single one job task. And so one thing as you're progressing in your career that you really need to be thinking about is how to develop additional skills, so then when opportunity comes down the road, that you feel confident that you will actually be able to pick up those opportunities. Again, I started doing training seminars back when I was doing emergency services. And so back then I was teaching people how to do search and rescue, and I was teaching people how to read coordinates on maps and how to bandage people up and all that kind of stuff. Well, I took those skills that I learned when I was doing the emergency services stuff, I took the knowledge that I had about computers, and back in 2009 I started talking into a camera trying to explain basically computer technology the same way I used to explain how to try to find somebody in the woods, right? So all of these skills come together to create your career and allow you to actually go for new opportunities as they come down the pike, right? If you have two people that are on the help desk, one person helps run a local Boy Scout troop or a local church group or something like that, and the other one goes home and plays Netflix or watches Netflix. Well, think about it. When the boss needs to promote the person to be the help desk lead or to manage the help desk, who are they most likely going to go for? They're going to go for the person that actually has some skills and experience with management and leadership and that type of thing. Even, again, to be clear, even if it's a Boy Scout troop, even if it's a 4-H troop, if it's Civil Air Patrol or something like that, right? Simply having those skills, you may really not really think about it initially, but those types of things can be very valuable. Again, the reason that I'm able to speak so well to you folks now is because I used to do poetry reading. As I've talked about before, I'm an Aspie, and I used to be horrible in front of people. Oh my golly, it was horrible. I would go up and I would try to speak in front of people, and it was a disaster. It was like out of the movies type of disaster. And I realized that wasn't going to work for me. If I didn't learn how to talk to people, life was going to get really, really bad. So I actually started doing poetry readings. Back in the early 90s, poetry readings were the cool thing. And so I went up there and as a little Aspie, I said my little poems. And I did that for 2 or 3 years until I got completely comfortable going up and saying poems in front of people. And after that point, it wasn't really any big deal. I realized, I rejiggered my brain to realize it wasn't really any big deal to go in front of people and talk. And so now I have that skill set that's been very useful for me going down the pike. So the question here, though, is very specifically how to tutor young people and change their lives as well. Again, I'm going to caveat a lot in these question and answers. People's main complaint about me is that I talk a lot. Yes, because there's a lot of things to break down, even in a simple question like this. One of the things that I will warn a lot of folks out there is a lot of people want to have a hero complex. A lot of people want to, quote unquote, change lives. Just be careful about this a little bit. I've found people can be very weird when you provide them help, when you provide them support. And if you are looking for recognition for changing people's lives, yeah, that seems like a road to misery. That seems like a road to misery. I know how many people I have helped in life, and I know how many people have thanked me for it. So one of the things that I do caution, I would always argue for most people out there, if you want to do something, if you want to have a job or something like that, is have a job for slightly selfish reasons that actually has a good outcome for the rest of humanity, right? So for me doing Silicon Dojo, there's a lot of selfish reasons I want to do Silicon Dojo. I think it actually can bring me money at the end of the day. I enjoy doing things. Again, I'm working on my computers anyway. I spent 4 hours this morning just tippy-tap typing away trying to get my freaking Python code to do what it was supposed to do, right? There's a lot of benefits. And then with what I'm doing, if I can help people as I go, that's a benefit. It's one of the ways that I don't get, I think, so depressed, or as depressed as many people do in the world, right? A lot of people, when they say that they want to change people's lives, it's because they feel like they have a hole, right? I have a hole. I'm trying to fill that hole, and I feel that I will fill that hole if I, quote unquote, change somebody's life, and they are so thankful to me. What you realize is people being thankful to you is much like money, much like food, much like fancy things, much like a gorgeous girlfriend or wife. I mean, they're good. Don't get me wrong, they're wonderful things, but they don't fill holes. And if you're trying to go and you're trying to, like, there's that thing a lot of people have. They're like, if only I could, do something for people, that would make me feel like I have a reason to be on this planet. I've seen that go for a lot of folks, and it just doesn't work out very well. So I would argue, try to go for slightly selfish reasons, like try to get paid well for helping people. Right? Again, it's like nowadays it's either supposed to be capitalistic or it's supposed to be socialistic. Either you're only in it for the money, or you're trying to be a martyr or whatever. I'm just saying, try to help people and not be a martyr and eat well all at the same time. Again, that's with my original YouTube videos. For a long time there, I was making a very good salary for giving, basically giving away, quote unquote, giving away free education. And that's something I would put in there with the whole, change lives as well. Like, why are you doing it? I get worried when people say that type of thing. But anyways, so the main question here, getting to the main question, this whole idea of how to tutor young people. And again, when we're talking about young people, what does that actually mean? Is that an 8-year-old? Is that a 15-year-old? Is that a 28-year-old? Again, the older I get, that boundary of young people. Again, it's completely funny to me. I will go out and, I will see young women drinking beer. And it's just like, wow, she's a child. Not even being offensive. It's just as a guy, you're out there and you remember how, and it's funny to be at bars and to see people that you consider your children drinking beers. So again, when you talk about young people, what is the actual definition there? My overall advice would be, especially in the beginning of any venture, try to latch on to somebody else's organization. Right? In the modern world with the Facebook and the startup world, there's this whole idea that you have to go out and you have to create whatever organization that you're going to do. So not only do you have to tutor, but you also have to create the organization, and you have to do fundraising, and you have to bring in members, and you have to do all this other stuff. Right? Again, to be clear, I'm an entrepreneur. I will probably stay being an entrepreneur. Don't get me wrong, though. Don't get me wrong. If somebody actually came to me and they had a work environment that I was excited about, I would go for that work environment. I just know me. I know the work environments in the industry, and those just don't work out so well, All right, so that's why I'm creating my own venture. Again, I have had opportunities to work in tech education and get paid very good money, and then I go and I see their cube farms. And their cube farms make me very, very, very sad. So that's one of the reasons why I'm creating my own thing. Again, basically, it's one of those, I could not find a job back after the dot-com bust, and so I became a consultant. I had never planned to become a consultant. I just needed to get freaking fed, right? Again, when I started doing the online education, after I had already run my business, it seemed like a reasonable idea. So be careful though with this whole, like there's this weird thing in the modern where like this entrepreneurial thing where everybody is being told that they should basically be an entrepreneur, create their own organization. And I would argue for a lot of people out there, that's just a bad way to go. Why not just slot yourself into an organization that's already doing what you want? They already have an infrastructure. They already have facilities. When the toilet in the bathroom is overflowing, it's not your problem. Again, all these millennials that want ownership in their corporations. Oh, great. Oh, great. You can figure out what the hell to do about the overflowing toilet. See, I thought I was going to have to figure out what to do about the toilet today, but now that you want ownership in this organization, here you go. Here's your ownership. Figure out what to do with that toilet. Make sure it gets done quick. Anyways, right, so if you go in, you're an employee, you're a volunteer, you basically latch onto another organization, you're not worried about fundraising, you're not worried about facilities, you're not worried about HR, you're not worried about insurance. Even for this little thing, I've got insurance, right? There's all of this stuff to be thinking about. And so what I would say, especially if you're a pretty young person, is to go out and look for nonprofit organizations that are most likely doing technology education, and then very selfishly, get as much experience out of them as possible while you're teaching disadvantaged folks. Build up an experience level, build up a Rolodex, and numbers for people that you can call, all those types of things. Build up the skills of learning how to make a slide deck and how to do other things, how to talk in the whole 9 yards. And then if you really want to go off and create your own little organization, do tutoring or whatever else, then from that point launch it, right? A lot of folks nowadays, they don't realize how valuable it is to go volunteer in nonprofit organizations. Again, especially if you're a technology professional, especially if you want to actually educate, there are a lot of positions available. Now, you're probably not going to be teaching Active Directory or, Python or anything like that. But they may, and they probably do have opportunities to teach old people how to use Office, or middle-aged people how to, do better things on the internet, or how to build websites, right? The important thing here is because what a lot of folks do, especially a lot of new folks, what they say is, well, that's below me. Yeah, and I know, because... Anyways, you're like, I don't want to teach low-level things like that. But an important thing to understand when you're young is teaching is teaching. Right? Whether I'm teaching voice over IP, whether I'm teaching Python, whether I'm teaching you how to use iTunes, it's the same skills. Again, slide deck basically, figuring out what questions the students are going to ask, answering those questions, having the back and forth, making sure the students stay awake during the class, figuring out how long a class should be, figuring out how many slides there should be in a deck. Again, I just did a meetup where the session was how to be a YouTuber, and I had 43 slides. Yeah. You know how you learn not to do something again? Is once you've done it the first time. I had 43 slides. It took like 2.5 hours to go through 43 slides. Basically, I had a plan for like an hour to an hour and a half for this session, and basically when you try to get through 43 slides, it's not going to take an hour to an hour and a half. It's going to take 2.5 hours, and that's when you're trying to rip through it and answer questions, right? So basically, if you go out there and you volunteer for an organization, you start teaching folks, with that organization or that come in, you teach them whatever skills that organization is offering, then you get to get that skill set, you get to get that Rolodex, you get to gain an experience, and then as you move up in the organization, as you've been doing it a little while longer, you may actually be able to create your own opportunity within the organization. So I knew this in Baltimore. In Baltimore, there's a lot of nonprofit organizations, and there's a lot of organizations, that service the community or service kids or whatever else. And many of those organizations have full, complete, ridiculously expensive computer labs. One of the saddest things that I've seen is they will have computer labs that you will just be amazed at the quality of the equipment, but they have zero budget to maintain said computer labs. Which is its own little weird thing. But think about this, right? So if you go to an organization, you say that you're going to volunteer, you want to tutor people, and whatever that organization is wants to tutor people on, they will bring people in, you start learning how to do it, you start going through all the steps, you figure out how the organization works, you figure out how the resources work, you figure out how the whole workflow and all that happens, and then after you've been doing it for a few months, then you might be able to go to whoever's running the nonprofit or whoever's responsible for the computer lab and say, hey, I've been doing these training classes for a while and I'd like to keep doing it. I don't want to stop doing what's valuable to the organization, but I'm thinking that I would also like to do an additional program. That additional program that I want to do is X, Y, or Z. You explain it to them, and many times, especially if it's no skin off the nonprofit's nose, right? They already have a lab, the computer lab. They already are paying for the facilities costs and everything else. So as long as it doesn't screw with them, and there may be issues with insurance and all that kind of stuff, so you have to be careful with it. But as long as it doesn't screw with what they're doing, they'll most likely let you launch whatever program that you want, and then you can go from there. And again, like if you are somebody that doesn't have resources, that doesn't have a Rolodex, it's important to get a Rolodex. One of the reasons that I just moved to Asheville, North Carolina, and the reason that I'm going to business networking events every week here is because I don't have a Rolodex in Asheville. I was talking to a buddy of mine back up in Baltimore, and he was talking about the project that he was doing. So I got so sad. It's like, wow, yeah, if I was in the Baltimore area and I launched Silicon Dojo, this would be so much easier. I don't have any resources down here. Right? But that's a problem, like not having people to call, not having people to support you, the whole nine yards. And so if you're new, it's very important to try to build up that resource base. With me being here in Asheville, North Carolina, that means every tech meetup I can go to, I'm going to the tech meetups. Every business meetup and networking thing I can go to, I'm going there. I'm not just passing out the business cards, but I'm also trying to create relationships with people. I'm trying to create a relationship to the point that if I see the person on the street, I'll be like, oh, hey, Eli, and say, hey, Bob. Literally happened to me last week. So I went to a meetup, I sat there, I was talking with somebody, one of the many people that I talked to, trying to build that relationship, and just a few days ago, I was walking down the street and it was like, oh, hey, we know each other. And we talked about modern business, and then I went off to the shop, right? You want that kind of Rolodex. And so the useful thing is if you go to a volunteer organization, you start teaching, not only are you going to be teaching the students, you're going to create relationships with the students, but then you're going to be creating relationships with the management. And you may be able to create relationships with the donors for that nonprofit organization. And when you sit there and you start talking to the people around you about what you want to do and what resources you require, Again, you will be very surprised how many people will say, oh, is that what you want to do? I'd love to support that, and I've got more resources than you know what to do with. Again, this is something that really happens in the real world. I know it sounds a little metaphysical when I talk about it, but when you have people that are praying to God, one of the questions I always ask is, what is the anatomy of God? When they say that God is omnipresent, maybe it's omnipresent with humans. Maybe God is listening through the ears of everybody else around you. And if that's the case, then maybe you need to talk to people around you so that God knows what the hell you want. I know that gets a little blasphemous there, but I always kind of think about that. That's how my mind works. I think about, folks praying to God, and I always wonder, I truly wonder sometimes if people are praying to God's kneecap. Can you imagine that? They're sitting there like they're praying really hard to God's kneecap. And God doesn't know, because you're praying to his kneecap. You're not actually talking into his ears. It's like my wife. My wife will be in the house. She'll be like, I'll be in the basement, and she'll be on like the second floor, and then she'll just start talking to me. I'm like, how? Do you honestly think I can understand a word that you're saying? What is, But again, that's what I think with people. Is again, when you need help, when you need support, you need to be around other folks. And so one of the things that you need to do is you need to find places where other people are that might be able to support you, and then you need to become a part of that group somehow. Again, nonprofit organizations are an absolutely wonderful way of doing this. So if you are, again, whatever religious sect you are, whether you're Christian or Muslim or Buddhist or whatever else, right? If you go to church, if you go to temple, if you go to synagogue, there's a good chance that your religious group does some kind of, outside work, helping the community around them. So one of the things that you can do is you can go to the people there and say, hey, is that, I am looking for tutoring opportunities. Do we have any tutoring opportunities here? And again, an important thing to understand is, like I say, when you're teaching, old people how to use Office, it's basically the skills are the same as teaching, younger people how to use Active Directory. But also realize the skills of teaching a kid how to do 2 plus 2 is way too similar to teaching a 30-year-old how to create a group policy. And so if you go to your church, blah, 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 and ask, do we have some kind of tutoring service here? I want to get more skills in that. You may find that yes, there is tutoring, maybe not specifically in technology, but maybe in math, maybe in science, maybe something that's lower level for you. So you can go in there and you can learn to interact with people. You can learn to read their face. You can learn to see where they're starting to lose the plot, to lose the storyline. You can then learn to bring them back in, and all the skills that you're going to learn there will be transferable when you actually try to go and start tutoring in technology. And again, what you do there, you should be selling. You are selling all the time. So when you're sitting there and you're teaching a 10-year-old, how to do pre-algebra or something, just telling the 10-year-old, hey, now that I showed you how to use pre-algebra, if you ever want to learn how to swap a hard drive, I would be more than happy to also help you to teach swap a hard drive. So you can tell people that way. So that would be my thought there, is go to the organizations that are around you and see what organizations around you have tutoring services of any kind. Again, preferably technology. Preferably, you want to be as niche as possible. If there's technology tutoring at a local nonprofit, yeah, go for that, obviously. But if there's not, don't dismiss pre-algebra tutoring or something like that. If you go and you actually start being involved in those opportunities, you start talking with people. Again, like when I want to do Silicon Dojo, think about the stuff that I'm talking about with Silicon Dojo, and think about how a lot of this pertains to almost any kind of education. Whether it's math or whether it's English or grammar or anything else, right? I need a room. I need chairs. I need some way to be able to present information. I need places where people can sit. A lot of the facilities and everything, again, doesn't really matter what you're teaching. A lot of that is basically the same. So if you go, and again, you start talking with people, you might be able to find out where you can get resources, where you can get facilities, where you can get help and support they may not have realized before. The other thing to think about too is, depending on how much you really want to get into tutoring, like how dedicated you want to be with tutoring, one of the interesting things that I saw a buddy of mine did up in Baltimore is he wanted to create a nonprofit organization. But he didn't want to really create a nonprofit organization. He wanted all the benefits of a nonprofit organization without the board members and a lot of the legal stuff that goes along with it. So one of the interesting things that he did is he attached himself to an educational nonprofit up in the Baltimore area, and then basically simply offered services more or less under their umbrella, right? So they were whatever, Baltimore education nonprofit, and then he created, technology education, whatever. And so what he could do, what was very interesting there, is he could ask people to donate to the parent nonprofit, and basically they would just pump the money down to him. So whenever he wanted money, when he's going out there, he was trying to solicit donations. The donations would go to the parent nonprofit organization, and then they would just simply earmark everything for his little department that he had created under that nonprofit, and then that's how he was able to get a budget. So he was able to get all of the benefits of a nonprofit organization. Again, without having to worry about the equivalent of pumping out the toilet when somebody clogged it up. So there's a lot of different opportunities out there like that to think about. I would argue for you, just go out there and start schmoozing with people. Again, Church groups are good. Things like Red Cross, they have educational, they have opportunities where they need people to teach, need people to present. Like there's going to be like boys and girls clubs in your area. There's going to be like YMCAs in your area. I'm sure nowadays in the 2020s, there's probably a few specific like technology nonprofits in your area. So go knock on their door and see if they're interested, see if they need some help, and then just jump in and do whatever they need help with, and then build up from there. So that would be my thought, and it's a good idea for everybody. Again, I think that's one of the big problems I see with the younger generation. It's not like millennial or Gen Zers. It's more like the Netflix generation. Because you have to understand, my generation, we didn't have Netflix. We didn't have Netflix, nor did we have the internet, the way you know the internet today. Honestly, I was an adult having an argument about whether or not the internet mattered, right? I was 21, 22. I was 22 before I got the internet, like at all. That's why, when I say internet at all, I'm talking about a 56K modem. And so one of the big things for my generation is that we got bored. There's this thing called boredom. And so, right, if you have video games that only last an hour, right, that only takes up so much time. If you have reruns on TV and that's about all you got, if you got VHS and that's about all you got the radio, you've only got so many books. The reality was, for my generation, boredom was a real, issue. And so we wanted to go, we wanted to find ways to entertain ourselves. And so when I talk about being young and doing volunteer things and working with nonprofit organizations and doing some of the emergency services stuff that I did, remember, one of the big reasons that I did that is I didn't have Netflix. I didn't have video games that would last 100 hours. Some of these games nowadays, the game itself lasts 100 hours, and then you can do multiplayer online, and then you can apparently do it for 1,000 hours if you want to, right? So we got bored. And so one of the things with boredom is if you are bored, you look for ways to entertain yourself. If you don't have all these electronic gadgets around you to entertain yourself with, it forces you to go out and be around people. Well, I'm single. I don't have any video games to play. I might as well go out, help with a soup kitchen, right? Okay, we're bored. We don't have anything better to do. Why don't we go out and pick up trash? Or why don't we go out and, again, tutor kids? Why don't we go out and actually do something useful? Because otherwise we're going to be sitting here staring at the ceiling. And I think that's an interesting thing. Again, we talk about the different generations is... like Netflix doesn't satisfy you, right? It's empty. I don't know, soul calories, right? It's like eating sugar, right? The reason that you don't eat sugar all the time is that you're gonna feel like crap. Yes, it is calories. I guess the body keeps going. But if you just eat a lot of sugar all the time, you're just gonna feel like garbage. So that's why you need good, solid foods, right? I would argue kind of the same as like with social interaction, social media, Netflix, these video games. I'm not anti them. Look. Before I came to the classroom today, I was playing Ratchet and Clank again. I am not anti-video games at all. But one of the problems you're going to run into is when you're bored and when you're lonely and when you don't know what to do, it's really easy to click on Netflix. It's really easy to sit there and kind of lose yourself in that video game. And what happens is that video game or that entertainment, it's enough of a pacifier to get you to stop needing to go be entertained to do something, but it's not actually a healthy pacifier. It's like sugar for the soul. And so that's one of the issues that I see with a lot of young folks nowadays, is simply where before we were so bored, you might as well go out and do something, even get into trouble. Even going out and getting into trouble, right, was something to do with other people. You were doing it with other people at least, right? A lot of folks now, they just go into their little boxes and again, they wonder why they feel so crappy. They wonder why they're so depressed. And the reality is they're just, shoving this entertainment into their head, and it's just that emptiness to it. And so that's where I would argue for a lot of you young folks out there is instead of turning on Netflix, instead of buying that new video game, going out and looking to volunteering at a soup kitchen, volunteering to again, to tutor kids, whether it's in technology or whether it's in basic math, going out and, being with a group of people and picking up trash on the side of the road. I mean, think about it, right? If you're bored and you need something to do, if you sit there and play a video game for 4 hours, at the end of it, you're probably not feeling great. I mean, yes, 4 hours was burned or whatever else, but if that's how you do stuff, you're probably not feeling great. Whereas, I know this sounds weird, but you go out with a group of folks and clean up trash by the side of the road. Afterwards, everybody goes out, grabs a beer or soda, whatever age appropriate for you. Then you just spent a few hours actually doing something that's beneficial to society. You did something with other people. You did something where you created relationships and bonds with other people. And then at the end of the day, you actually go home and you get a decent night's sleep because you're physically tired. So something to think about there. But yeah, if you want to go out there and tutor people, again, there's a ton. Even here in Asheville. Asheville is 93,000 people. There's not a lot of people. But if I wanted to find a nonprofit or something to help educate kids or young folks, I'm sure there are more than enough of them around here, especially, like I say, with tutoring. You might go to high schools. You might go to private high schools, go to education facilities. Just start doing some Google searching. Honestly, tutoring, nonprofit tutoring my area, and just start running through the list, talking with folks, and go from there. So that would be my rather long form advice. See, it's still got to be a long video. It's got to be a long video. See, the question and answers, don't worry. You're still going to get ridiculously long videos. The hope is there just won't be quite as much snark. There won't be quite as many highly questionable comments that I make. Comments that I stand behind. Don't get me wrong, I stand behind everything that I say. But let's be honest, they can be questionable. Anywho, there is your answer, Simba Hunter. If you want to ask me a question, again, down in the comment sections on this YouTube channel, please just ask a question down there. Every day I will try to answer one, and we will go from there. If you want to support Silicon Dojo, again, Silicon Dojo is free to the end user, hands-on technology, education. That also provides things like this. It also provides video seminars on the main channel. Think about going to donorbox.org/ETCG and throwing a couple of dollars in. We do need your support. Again, free to the end user is not free. This costs me money, and my really cool box, the really cool box that I really do want, costs even more money. So we need to get that money from somewhere. So if you want to throw a couple of dollars down below, again, a couple of dollars from a whole bunch of people actually turns into some real money. So this is valuable to you. Think about that. If you want a one-on-one consultation session with me, and you come to Asheville, you gotta come here. It's in person. Go to silicondojo.com. On the right-hand side, there is a link for the one-on-one consultations. I've done many of them at this point. I've had people come from Augusta, Georgia, which is 3 hours away. I've had people come from Raleigh, which is like 4 hours away. I've had many people come from Charlotte, actually, which is 2 hours away. So apparently people find this valuable. But if you want to sign up for one of those consultations, I'll sit down. I talk with you for anywhere between 1 to 3 hours, depending on how much information you need. But that's available. Think about clicking on that. If you want to come to the seminars that I do these seminars. They're posted on Meetup. This week I am doing Easy Computer Vision using AWS and Azure. Actually pretty cool, to be honest with you. I was kind of worried that this seminar was going to be a bit lame, and now that I've been working on it a little while, I'm like, holy crap, this is cool. But anyways, we do a whole bunch of, every week I try to do at least one seminar. So if you're in the Asheville area, click on that Meetup, sign up to the Meetup, come on down, and I don't know, is there anything else? Oh, I do offer tutoring. Nobody's taking me up on the tutoring. That's one thing too. Sometimes people don't want what you think they want. They want to come for one-on-one talks, which is weird. But I haven't had anybody sign up for tutoring yet. Anyways, if you're like the CompTIA, you need help on like A+, Net+, Server+, Linux+. Again, understanding what a protocol suite is when we talk about TCP/IP4, talking about subnet masking, talking about how to actually do. Oh Christ! I hope nobody asks me how to do subnetting. That would suck. I don't know what it is. No matter how long you've done technology, there's something about subnetting. It just kind of blows your brain. Anyways, I don't know. You want that kind of information? We also do tutoring. So with that, I will call it a day. I need to work on my little computer vision program that I'm working on. So I will see you folks at the next video, or hopefully, more hopefully, here in the Silicon Dojo in Asheville, North Carolina.